to show how some of this commercial services-driven agenda of turning out our cities into smart cities might make
scale up something that's maybe version 1 and get it to version 7 where it can actually be deployed on a city scale.
Many of these smart apps are extremely paranoid.
Generates a city that is not smart enough. They're pretty stupid, actually.
Pay per view, pay per byte, pay per mile. And where does that leave us as a public?
It's very important to start understanding what makes cities tick and what makes cities important vehicles for social and political change. And it's clearly a city is much more than just a vehicle for delivering services to citizens, right? And this is why, which is why Silicon Valley firms that are now providing all this tools and platforms for making our cities smart don't want to talk about the more political, social uses of the city because they don't actually have tools for that. They only have tools for making buses run on time, for making weather forecasts displayable everywhere. It's all about efficiency and making our lives easier. And my fear is that in technologizing many of these processes, we will also make it harder to engage in other uses of the city, if you will, right? And that might mean that, well, social uses, but also political uses. Cities are also places where protests happen. We've seen a few years ago that the cities were key to the Occupy Wall Street movement. We have seen recently the events in Turkey, early in Brazil, where big public squares still operate as places where dissent brews and where dissent actually happens. And in a world where every corner has a CCTV camera, where there are drones policing the space, where identity can be spotted through facial recognition software, where it becomes possible to prevent certain people from entering based on real-time analysis and data mining, much of this renegade maverick uses of space will become harder, right? So what I want to do in the book is to explore some of the most subversive uses of the city and to show how some of this commercial services-driven agenda of turning out our cities into smart cities might make it harder to actually get some of those more social uses.
It's important for us to understand that I think we need to involve a much broader range of the population in not necessarily creating technologies as a smart city, but at least defining some of the problems that they're going to solve. And that's going to actually lead us to better solutions at the end of the day because, the engineers and the designers will be asked to actually solve the problems that people have rather than what they think the problems are. That said, I don't expect everybody to go out and learn how to code smartphone apps. But they can be involved in things like setting the vision, in things like evaluating, various different programs or policies or outcomes. So there are a lot of different ways, I think, for different stakeholders to get involved. And really, what I'm trying to do is just kind of encourage that and try to get people to understand that they do have a voice in the future of their city. And if they're willing and interested, they are able, that the technology is accessible and they don't have to sort of just accept whatever comes shrink-wrapped to them.
I worry about this stupefying effect of technology, and that it's used as kind of replacement for people's social intelligence about where they are, how to move around, who's around them, and so on. Many of these smart apps are extremely paranoid. They'll take you to a place with the least people if you're walking. Because the idea is that other people are threatened.
And is this the fault of technology, Richard, or is this the fault of us as users that we let ourselves be ordered around so easily?
Well, it's the fault. The market puts out there what people want to use. So, we're buying this technology. I don't think that the machinery should be demonized. But I think we have a very, very primitive, so far, understanding of what it can do, can't do, and shouldn't do.
I mean, same thing with chocking it full with smart technologies, as they're called, does not necessarily make a city smart. In fact, my argument is that much of the design of smart cities generates a city that is not smart enough. They're pretty stupid, actually. And so actually there's an enormous amount of losing intelligence, smart observations, knowledge bits, local knowledges within a city, because these systems are not ready to have this knowledge become part of the knowledge-making circuit. What would happen if each neighborhood in the city actually has an open access network attached to it, where people can sort of drop insights? Some of it will be nonsense, some of it are bits of knowledge. We've got to have that type of conversation, and that means open sourcing these closed systems, that the expert is the only one who has the best type of knowledge.
These urbanites, these urban citizens, should say, well, hey, I like these new smart possibilities, but I want to use them for my purpose. And they should express that much more forcefully than they do currently, I think, because it's expensive stuff, ICT, and governments, local governments that are under austerity regimes, see also a possibility to get sort of private investments through a smart city intervention, and they will get the goodies as paid for by the private corporations, but it will mean that we as consumers develop a relationship with these tech corporations and pay per view, pay per byte, pay per mile. And where does that leave us as a public entity, as a community, as an urban community?